Kia ora, good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Wellington, serving Rotary from the heart of Wellington since 1921. Welcome to our guest speaker today, David Rutherford, Chief Human Rights Commissioner, introduced today by Stephen, and the Sergeant today is Rhys Barlow. A few just introductory remarks. We're coming to the end of a wee bit of a busy session. On Friday we helped launch the new Provost Club of Wellington Central. There were 60 people along for its first meeting, and the majority of them signed up on the spot. The first meeting, I think, is Friday the 21st of April, and already the Saturnains have agreed to be the first guest speakers for the Provost Club of Wellington Central. So it's got off to a good start. The survey is closed and we're now analysing the results, and we'll cover that at a future meeting. We had a great club strategy session on Saturday morning, and all credit to Peter Cornish and Jane McCann. To Jane, a note of adulation almost, which was there were 12 strategists in the room, and so comparison wasn't herding cats, it was really herding 11 other strategy tigers, all who had a strong opinion and probably had 3 opinions for each individual that was in that room. So I congratulate Jane on her ability to harness. We've also now got agreement for Premier House for the President's Cocktail Party in June. We're just locking down the date for that, so please lock in June. There'll be a date set for Premier House. And we might do a rehearsal. And as well, if the past presidents could meet here next Monday at 11:30, that would be good, useful to have a catch up with them. The 5-minute speaker today is Ian Robertson, talking about victory over vermin. And Ian, I know you'll be introduced later on, so welcome, Ian. Members, could you please check your mobile phones on silent or vibrate, or whatever you want to do with them. And please check you've got your name badges on, and if you haven't, pick it up in the break. Are there any, other than Ian, who is our 5-minute speaker, or 5 to 10 minute speaker, are there any other family, friends, guests or visiting Rotarians? Straightforward. World travellers returning? Murray and Donna? And world travellers departing? Thank you. George, could I ask you to say grace, please?
At this time, we pause and give thanks for the friendship that is here at Rotary meeting and the welcome that greets us. It is right that we give thanks for the food and the enjoyment it brings. May it strengthen and prepare us for whatever we are called to do to help and support others who may have less. May we always remember that while food satisfies us for a time, it is kindness, humour, respect and friendship that brings lasting contentment. Amen.
Thank you, George. Birthdays over the last week: Murray, 16th of March, John Emmanuel, 19th of March, Ralph Green, 20th, and Karen also on the Karen Thomas on the 20th of March. I'll pass over to the Sergeant, Rhys Barlow.
Mr. President, fellows and guests, I'm going to talk about correctional institutions. Can I have a show of hands for all those who have visited a prison, borstal or correctional institute for whatever reason? That's impressive, very impressive. Those that haven't done it, please pay and make a note to yourself to do it. The reason for my interest, some time ago, a colleague of mine actually got sentenced to prison, and he, with 7 years term. A group of us, several of us, decided that we would pay him a visit and that we would do it on our own, so that was a one-on-one. So every 2 or 3 months I used to wander out to the Rimutaka prison to visit him. Hands up those that have visited the Rimutaka maximum security prison. Right. You will know that security is paramount out there. Indeed, it's been said it's harder to get into that prison than it is to get out. Such are the security arrangements at point of entry. How many prisoners does Rimutaka take? Any guesses?
1,200. 2,000. 800.
It's around about 1,000. And when I looked, the last official figures were 962 prisoners, of which 761 were sentenced and 201 were on remand. Would anyone like to hazard a guess as to what my colleague's most treasured daily routine was?
Shower.
Nope. 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 Reading the Dominion Post. There was only one paper for their wing out there, so one of our group paid the sub, so he got his paper delivered daily rather than a 3 or 4 day wait for it. Let's move on a little bit further. Hands up those that have been to San Francisco. Very good. Right, well you can pay because that's such a beautiful city. Name the #1 tourist attraction there. Who has experienced the Alcatraz prison tour? That's good. It's very, very worthwhile. Those who haven't, put it on your bucket list. So I think it's an absolute goodie, particularly with the audio that comes with the visit. And it's a self-drive job. You don't need to go in a group. You can just do it on your own account. Who is arguably Alcatraz's most renowned prisoner? It's a toss-up between the Birdman, Robert Stroud, and Al Capone. What was Al convicted for? Well done. You had a choice: extortion, bootlegging, murder. What affliction did he suffer from when he arrived in prison? It was syphilis. But he died of a stroke. What year did that prison get decommissioned?
1960.
Close. It was 1963. Did anyone ever successfully escape from Alcatraz? The answer is no. 14 attempts involving 36 inmates, 23 were captured, 6 were shot, 2 drowned, and 5 missing, presumed drowned. In closing, let me tell you a little story. As you finish the tour at Alcatraz, you come into the inevitable gift shop, where there are any number of books written about Alcatraz, most of whom mention this guy, and indeed he features in pretty much all of them. But as I came into the gift shop this day, I could see a group of people around somebody signing autographs. So I wandered over to have a look, and there in front of me was a fellow in his 80s signing autographs. I looked at him, and then I looked at some books on the side there, and it was this book here. And I picked it up, I went over to him, and the people had moved on by this time, and I started chatting to him. And I said to him, "Is this you?" He says, "It is indeed." And I said, "What are you doing here signing autographs?" "Well," he said, I got into the prison system at age 16. I'm now 82. I was released from prison at age 80. The prison authorities have an alumni every year, and this year I am their guest speaker. And I said, "That is amazing." And then I started chatting to him, and I said to him, "How did you get into the prison system?" He said, "When I was 16, I got booted out of home by my stepfather. I was given $5 to find my way. The first night, I had nowhere to sleep. I found a car that was unlocked. I opened it and I slept in the car. At 4 o'clock that morning, police found me asleep, took me into custody, and I was sentenced for 6 months in a detention centre, not for stealing cars, but for being a trespasser. And that one incident started him on a career in and out of prisons all over America, ending up in Alcatraz, which was deemed the safest prison in America. He was actually one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. But what happened when he got into Alcatraz, he met a counterfeiter who taught him how to counterfeit. And he became an absolute expert at it. He'd no sooner be out of jail serving one sentence, and then he'd be hooked again for counterfeiting. But he said, "I was the very best." It's just that I kept on getting caught. His name was William Baker. It's a tremendous read, one of the best reads. He wrote it himself, but it gives you a very good history of Alcatraz. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Rhys. Before I ask Donna to introduce Ian Robertson, Victory over Vermin, I just want to, for me, put it into context as a club. Trees, tree planting, Mount Vic, and all of the things associated with are part of where the club is at over the next few years. We have a forest at the heart of Wellington as a concept, 100, or more than a concept, 100,000 trees, with 40,000 trees already in the bag for those, and there is a really strong plan, as we all know, to plant 10 to 15,000 a year, have the nurseries and everything else up and running. All of that sides really well in train. We have car boxes we do with Scope, and we're also engaged with now tree, whatever you call that, when you keep them weed free. There's a term that tree releasing, and now we're also engaged in Victory over Vermin. So, Donna, could I invite you to introduce Ian, please?
President, guests and fellows, in 2015 the Rotary Club of Wellington was approached by the Wellington City Council, and we were asked if we would help set up and run a new group on Mount Victoria to trap rats, stoats and weasels. This was with the aim of bringing the birds back. They approached us, and as we had been involved, they approached us because we had been involved in the tree planting up there for a number of years, and in the process we had developed a good relationship with the Wellington City Council, and they did not want to set up another standalone group. As a Mount Victoria resident, I somewhat reluctantly put up my hand to orchestrate the establishment of this group, for what did I know about trapping vermin? And in conjunction with the Wellington City Council Partnership Officer, Tim Park, we had our first expression of interest meeting in late 2015. The first few months were a bit of a slog, getting the group established, but gradually everything fell into place, including the securing of $3,000 in seed funding from the Rotary Club of Wellington. And I have now been able to move back from that leadership position a bit to become the person who holds the bank account, applies for funding, does the administration, and of course is a liaison with the Rotary Club of Wellington. The person who is currently driving the actual trapping activity on Mount Victoria is Ian Robertson. He's heavily involved in the practicalities of the project, and he's here today to tell you about the progress we have made and the success we have had. Let's welcome Ian.
Thanks, Donna. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. I'm really pleased to be representing the Mount Victoria Trapping Group, otherwise known as Victory Over Vermin. I'm conscious that this is a luncheon, so I've left the goriest images at home today, so we'll see how we go. And as you can see, I'm not in my normal outfit today, so I heard there was a dress code. Actually, this is more like what we look like. This is Tim Park on the left-hand side there. They're setting up a motion sensor camera on a carcass box to see if there's any activity. So, and I do feel like I'm teaching Granny to suck eggs here, given your involvement with the bush regeneration, but I'll stick to an overview of the trapping work that we're doing and what it involves. So first thing we've done is we've divided Mount Victoria up into particular areas and have leaders assigned to coordinate the smaller groups of volunteers that look after each of these areas. The next thing we work closely with Bernard Smith, who's the Biosecurity Liaison Officer at the Council. Rats in particular don't have a very large area that they roam around in, so it's important for us to have traps close together to make sure we're not missing any pests. We're aiming for traps every 50 metres at this stage, and we use GPS and apps on our phones to target each location of every trap. We also set out chew cards in the area. They're less intimidating for the pests that don't have to climb inside anything to chew them, and by the bite marks we can tell what's in the area. So we do this 4 times a year just to check what the changes in population is, and we keep track of all this. Yeah, we're recording the results so we can get that accurate picture and just see what effect we're having. The majority of traps that we've got are rat tunnels, which are a simple box, and the box protects birds, dogs and cats from being snapped and ensures the pest is lined up correctly for a humane kill. We also use heavier DOC 200 traps, which are spaced wider apart to target the larger pests such as hedgehogs, stoats and ferrets, which have a wider range that they cover. They're screwed shut to avoid any prying hands. We're baiting these with dried rabbit and eggs to target the larger prey, but we're still catching rats with them. Even after we've got the traps in place, there's still quite a lot of work to be done. We need to check the traps every week to see if they've caught anything and to make sure the baits are fresh. We're baiting them with a non-toxic lures such as peanut butter and a blue lure that we've nicknamed Smurf Poo. We record all our catches, and this information again tells us what lures are working best and if some traps are working better than others. So at the moment we've probably had traps working for only about 4 months now, and I did a bit of a count up this morning, and so far we've caught 29 hedgehogs, 64 mice and 78 rats. And a fortnight ago we caught our first weasel. The boys, Carl and Tom Park, found it and they've been buzzing ever since. They're really voracious little predators. That's the weasel, not the boys. Unfortunately, in some areas we're having real trouble with traps being stolen or thrown into nearby bushes, so we've needed to put the traps off track in a lot of areas, which makes them a lot tougher to get to. This was the more original one that I'd found so far, which was the trap was set up at the base of the tree, and we found it bungeed carefully up the tree with the trap still set, so all I can think was someone was concerned about us catching hedgehogs, or maybe they were worried about their pet chihuahua, I'm just not sure. And I can see some sympathy for the hedgehogs. I think people have that Miss Tiggywinkle thing going on, but they're actually quite voracious little predators. They prey on eggs, chicks, lizards and insects, and they're actually quite good climbers. To give you an idea, Doc had recorded finding one hedgehog with 283 weta legs in its gut. So they do have a huge impact on an area. This is a little baby fantail that one of our volunteers found on a track at some stage, so a hedgehog would make quite short work of him. And they say that every trap you establish is like releasing a fantail, so we're hoping we see lots more of these. As we've set up the group, we've got a keen core of about 30 volunteers. This was from our Christmas gathering, and I've really enjoyed getting to know everybody. It's a social thing, and it's nice to sort of spread out into the community and meet people that you wouldn't normally bump into. And it's become a real family affair. One of the guys is currently struggling with his boys wanting to run up and check the traps every night at this stage. So. This is the boy you see, and when he's catching things like this, this has been identified as a Norway rat, but I'm thinking that it was part Labrador actually by the size of it. So. At the last count, we had 32 DOC 200 traps and 120 rat tunnels set out. We've had a problem with one of the areas, which is the Hapua Gully area. It's really steep and rugged, so it's really tough getting through there to check traps regularly. I've occasionally been going in there, but often get spat out the end of it, looking quite shredded. So we've made the call to, we've purchased 5 good-natured traps, which automatically reset after each kill. We set these out just last weekend, and the beauty of these is that they've got an automatic lure in them that slowly releases over a 6-month period, and the CO2 cartridge that arms it is good for 25 kills or 6 months as well, so they're really incredibly effective. Most of the kills are scavenged by other pests, so we don't necessarily find what's been killed, but they've recently come out with these counters which record every time the trap is triggered. So it's a really good way of us just checking how we're going with it. It's developed by a young a Wellington company, and it's really impressive technology. So the donation we received from Rotary really has enabled us to do this work, so we're really grateful to you all for this. And it's becoming increasingly common for us to see tui and fantails and kaka now in Mount Vic, and as well as visiting falcon, kiraroo and kakariki. So we're really excited to see the difference our efforts are making up there. So thank you.
Thanks, Ian. For us, it's part of a coordinated approach if we're going to apply 100,000 trees in Mount Vic. Really, we want to have a holistic approach to being able to do it. So it's great to partner with you, and thanks, Donna, as well. Please take a break through to 1 o'clock for fellowship time, and then we'll invite David to speak to us. Thank you.